Red Ryder BB Gal on the road again. So I packed up a pretty good Saturday. This was the last day of June, right before the big holiday week, essentially. July 4th this year is tomorrow, which is Wednesday. So everybody was, already, not that you weren't vacationing already, but even more so, and everybody was at the beach, clearly. It was hot in San Jose. It was hot probably most of inland, actually. And it was pretty evident when I was driving up here that I was fighting traffic. One of the things about being on a motorcycle that you don't have to worry about in a car is the stop and go. I was riding my clutch so much that my hands cramp, and they seem to do that quite a bit. I don't know if there's anything I could do differently, or if that's just the trade-off of being on two wheels versus being in a car. So anyway, I went out to Half Moon Bay to go meet up with my roommates. They were having a barbecue. It's just I ended up getting there too late. What you don't see on this ride is the fog behind me. So I had just gotten through all of that. Half Moon Bay and most of the coastal areas was socked in. But it was both a relief and it was a little chilly at the same time. I didn't wear enough to be able to stay on the beach, but then I wore too much when I was navigating, getting out of the area. This is the uphill drive. I don't know if you can tell, but there was a lot of traffic going to the beach. Even at this hour, this was already closer to 4 o'clock. I think it gets worse as the day moves forward. Like I said, that's the trade-off of being on two wheels is, I don't know a lot of bikes that are automatic. It would seem kind of strange to have a bike that is automatic. Might as well be a scooter or something like that. But I get tired really fast, and I do wonder sometimes if that's what's affecting my lifting, is that my arms are so engaged all the time when I ride. So, not to complain, but again, trade-off is I get a view, and these videos clearly don't do it justice, but close enough. So anyway, I'm going through this little pass right here going back towards 280 in San Jose. Again, this is the return ride home, so it was crystal clear blue. The fog was pretty thick, and it got cold really fast, so this was coming back. And I had just one little scary moment where there was a Harley, this one, that had crossed into my lane, ever so small, but significant enough for me to notice. And I normally ride pretty far away from any traffic ongoing or oncoming or right next to me, so it just, you don't like to see things like that, especially if it's another cyclist. And that was the other thing too, it's like I feel a little intimidated when I try and wave at Harleys versus anybody else. I don't know, sometimes you can just tell that they're either men or they're older. So, me being a new rider, I don't even know what to think half the time. If anybody can help me out with that, that'd be cool. So this was towards the end of 92 from Half Moon Bay, and this was the crossroads to get either back to 280 or going into the 101. Normally I would take 280 back. So this is my first time riding 92 through to get to the San Mateo Bridge, which is also still Highway 92. The views that I got riding this entire route, pretty much from start to finish, I mean, it was nice to be able to cross the bay, but the one thing I had trouble with this bridge, it's a wind tunnel. I mean, it was 10 minutes of riding. It was hard, so what I love about being on a motorcycle, aside from it just being a very freeing experience, and I feel naked half the time in a good way, you fight the elements. You fight heat, you fight wind, you fight road. Like, I don't think I have really great shock absorbers on my bike, being a kind of a beginner bike, and I actually thought I was riding a little under pressured. I thought maybe my tires didn't have enough pressure in them. Turns out that they were just fine. This particular bridge, I don't know if it's just this road or maybe it's just the way it's constructed, but it hurt. Truthfully, it hurt. That guy was going fast, by the way. I was already averaging, this is a normal drive for me on any other given road, but for some odd reason, this one just was annoying. and I felt like the wind was just pushing me out and over. So not only just a crosswind from north to south, but also the wind just coming from being on an open area. So sometimes I felt like my helmet was going to fly off, even though I was secured in. And then the road itself, it literally is like riding a horse that you have no shock absorption whatsoever. I mean, it was actually very exhausting to an extent. In addition to the fact that the weather, temperate or ambient weather, was actually shifting. So I went basically from 90 degrees in San Jose to 70-ish, kind of chilly, beach fog on the coast, to transitioning back to the inland valleys. And then this is actually my connector straight on through, is my connector to Livermore, which you ride off the 580. I know I'm not actually saying that right, but it was just long, and I really couldn't appreciate the view because of the wind. It was just literally, I felt like what was the best thing to describe it? It's like I was a punching bag that I had no anchor, and the wind was just punching the crap out of me. I mean, it was just bang, 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 bang. So again, stuff about riding, it's fun. Some positives about it. You can get through certain places. HOV lanes are just absolutely the best. But keeping up with other cars, at least on my bike, since it's only a 300, that was a cop right. That was the only other motorcyclist I actually saw on my way. I feel slow. I feel quiet, and even though I would love eventually to upgrade to a bigger bike, I still need more practice. It's just, I think certain roads just never really hit me right. So anyway, not to bitch about that much longer, but I eventually got to Livermore. So Livermore is inland, and it's where a good friend of mine lives. Ended up having a birthday party, and what could I say? After all of that, that was close to 100 miles that I was hitting before I got to 580. I said, you know what, I'm just gonna crash. I need to just rest. Luckily they had a big couch, so I was just chilling at that point. Just taking a break for a second. Yeah, so Half Moon Bay was Saturday, and I stayed through at my friend's house until the following morning. And I had entertained going back home that evening, but I was tired, and I had fun. I didn't drink or anything, even though they were asking me to. I'm trying to cut my alcohol consumption of late, but I figured also it's like, well, as long as there's no fog and as long as it's not raining, I mean, it'll be a beautiful drive. So where my friend lives is a pretty affluent area of the city. And they're kind of on the outskirts anyway. But what I enjoyed more than anything, when I noticed with the sunrise, and you'll see the moon in a couple different angles here, I could see my shadow. So there's something, and I don't know if it's something that I feel, but when I see my silhouette on my bike, it's very empowering. The thing about riding is, and I had asked my dad about this, he kind of made note of it, you can't really tell what you are when you're on a bike. Like, if somebody was just driving by, they couldn't tell if you were a guy or a girl, if you were old or you were young. It's hard to tell anyway. Some of it is pretty obvious, and it seems like certain bikes are built for certain types of people. I did see a woman, and the only reason I knew it was a woman is because I saw her ponytail and her shape, because she wasn't really wearing a jacket. She was on a really big bike. I mean, one of those, I couldn't even tell you what the CCs are, but it was definitely 3 times mine. But you can't tell, so when I see my shadow, you see it a couple of different times. This was on the way out, so this is 84, I believe. I've ridden it, I've never ridden on my bike actually. It's the first time I've ridden out to Livermore. It just looks cool, like being on a motorcycle has this mystique that's very hard to explain until you actually get on it. It also has its reputations and its my motorcycle gang and all that stuff, but you know, I enjoy it more because I ride very often now. But it you know, it's like you're flying almost, you know. Sorry again for the kind of a shaky. I honestly think it was the road. Like, some of these roads are really tough on your body. You don't really notice it in a car, especially if you've got good shocks. I don't know. I don't know if my car is just kind of calling it a day, or my bike is just not built for that stuff. It didn't like it, you know. And then my camera's not really built for it anyway either. Like, I actually turned the sound off, even though I love the hum of my bike. It's just the wind just took over too much in both drives. So this is from 84. This is 680 going back down. In geographical anatomy of the Bay Area, there are 4 main freeways that pretty much go north to south. 280, 101, and then you cross over the Bay Area, you have the 880 and the 680. I wouldn't say that's unique to the Bay Area. I would say, though, that it makes traveling very diverse, but also very tricky, because all of them are always packed on a normal day. So I got lucky with the timing of events. You know, it's summertime, so there's already a decreased amount of traffic on the road. This was Sunday. It was Sunday morning. It's the week of a big, regular holiday event, July 4th. So this was about 7 in the morning, and no traffic. But I'm an early bird apparently. I must still have East Coast time somewhere in my system. The best surprise was catching the sunrise on this overpass. 680 and 880 don't really have a official interchange like most major freeways do. So when I was looking over to my left, and I was really trying to turn my body, because it was just unbelievable. The sunrise over the hills was just crazy, Yoga's clearly not working. I'm not flexible enough to do that, but I wish you guys could have seen it. It was just absolutely gorgeous. I'll definitely miss this place.